My name is Elena. I'm 23. A wife. A mother. A girl who used to be full of plans and laughter and late-night anime marathons. But now? Now I sit at the kitchen table feeding our 6-month-old daughter while the clatter of controller buttons echoes through the walls. It's like he's there, but not with us. Not really. We've been together almost 5 years. Married since March. I got pregnant not long after. It wasn't planned, but it didn't scare me either. I thought we'd figure it out together. He, Logan, my husband, was sweet at first. Gentle. Funny. We were the kind of couple people envied, silly in public, affectionate in private. He played games, I didn't mind. He loved anime. I loved the way his eyes lit up when he talked about storylines. But since our daughter was born, something shifted. He still goes to work, leaves around 10, comes back around 5 or 6. I watch the clock, listen for the key in the door, feel the familiar swell of hope. Maybe today he'll scoop her into his arms. Maybe he'll ask how my day was. Maybe I'll feel like a woman again, not just a machine made of milk and lullabies. But he always heads straight to the garage to smoke, then to the game room. A dim room that glows with LED lights and digital explosions. Dinner is at 7. Sometimes he joins us at the table, more often he doesn't. I feed the baby, talk to her like she understands, because she's the only one listening. At bedtime, I have to carry her to him just to say goodnight. He'll pause the game, barely glances. A tired smile. A half-hearted night baby girl, while his eyes drift back to the screen. He's off on weekends. But even then, he's not here. He stays up late playing, sleeps most of the morning. On Sundays, he'll give us 4 hours, like a paycheck being cashed in love. We watch our anime on Tuesdays, 2 episodes. The rest of the time, I'm just background noise in his life. I try not to sound bitter. I chose this. I wanted this life. I wanted him. But I didn't want to raise our daughter alone while sitting beside the man I married. I'm tired. Not the kind of tired sleep can fix, but the kind that creeps into your bones and makes everything feel heavier. My arms ache from carrying a growing baby. My heart aches from carrying the silence between us. The hardest part is he doesn't even see it. Doesn't see me. If I ask for help, just 15 minutes, he complains. If I go to his office just to be with him, he acts like I'm intruding unless someone else is watching. It's like he's missing everything, and I'm grieving for moments he hasn't even noticed he's lost. I don't want to fight. I don't want to guilt him into loving us. I just want to know, how did we become this? And more than anything, how do I bring him back? I used to think silence was peaceful. Before the baby, Logan and I could sit on the couch for hours. Me curled up next to him, his hand resting lightly on my thigh, the TV humming quietly in the background. Silence used to be safe. Now it feels like a wall I can't climb. Tonight was like every other night. Dinner at 7. I made pasta, his favorite. He didn't come to the table. I plated his and left it outside his game room door, like a prisoner sliding a tray through a slot. I sat at the table alone, bouncing Lily on my knee while trying to eat one-handed. She babbled between spoonfuls of pureed carrot, her tiny hands waving like she was trying to tell me something urgent. I smiled for her. I always smile for her. But inside, I was unraveling. I don't know why I chose tonight. Maybe because it was Tuesday, our anime night. Maybe because I wanted to feel like we were still us for just a moment. Maybe because I was scared of what might happen if I let another week pass without saying something. I waited until Lily was asleep, her tiny chest rising and falling in the soft blue glow of the nightlight. I sat outside his game room for almost 5 minutes, staring at the door, hearing his laughter through the mic, the faint clatter of bullets and spells on his screen. And then I knocked. The game noise dropped a little. His voice rose slightly, "One SEC, guys." The door cracked open. His eyes looked tired, annoyed. "What's up?" I swallowed. My mouth felt dry. "Can we talk?" I asked. "Right now?" I nodded. "Just 5 minutes. Please." He sighed and stepped back, letting me into the neon-lit cave. The room smelled like weed and Monster Energy drinks. He flopped back into his chair, his eyes not quite meeting mine. I stood by the door. I didn't want to sit. I didn't want to feel like I was making myself comfortable in a place I didn't belong. I'm really tired, Logan, I began. I'm overwhelmed. I need help. I need you. He ran a hand through his messy hair, already looking frustrated. I work all day. You get to be home. You think I don't get tired too? I'm not saying you don't, I said carefully. But this isn't working. I don't want to fight. I just want to feel like we're a team again. I want you to spend time with us. With Lily. She's growing so fast and you're missing it. He scoffed. I see her. When? For 30 seconds before bed? You haven't changed a diaper in weeks. You don't feed her. You don't, my voice cracked. You don't ask how I'm doing. He looked away, jaw tight. You're overreacting. I'm doing my part. I go to work. I pay the bills. Isn't that enough? No, I whispered. It's not enough to pay bills and disappear. For a long moment, neither of us said anything. The game's lobby music played softly from his headset. Then he stood, brushing past me toward the door. I'll be out in a bit, he muttered. Let me finish this match. He didn't come out. I fell asleep on the couch, the baby monitor on my chest, the ache in my throat sharper than ever. The next morning, I found something strange. A text popped up on his phone while I was grabbing laundry from the bedroom. A name I didn't recognize. Jenna. Work, haha, I needed that last night face with tears of joy, you are too much. I stared at it for a moment, the words burning into my brain. Too much. What did that mean? Needed what? Was it a joke? A flirt? My stomach dropped. I didn't want to go down that road, didn't want to become paranoid. But my gut twisted in a way I couldn't ignore. Was this about more than just games and exhaustion? Was he escaping something or someone? I didn't say anything. Not yet. But I screenshotted the text and sent it to myself. Just in case. Later that day, I tried to pretend everything was normal. I took Lily on a walk. I called my mom. I folded tiny socks with shaky hands. But the air felt different now. Heavy. Untrustworthy. I looked around the house we shared, the wedding photo still on the wall, our smiles frozen in time. The vows we made still echoed in my mind. In good times and in bad. In sickness and in health. In joy and in parenthood. I used to feel safe with him. Now I feel like I'm living with a stranger who doesn't even see me unraveling. And something tells me there's more I don't know. Much more. I wanted to believe it was innocent. The message. The emoji. The timing. People joke with coworkers. People get comfortable, right? But the way Logan didn't mention her, the way he never once brought up anyone named Jenna, stuck in my throat like a thorn. I wasn't even sure what I was accusing him of. A joke? A conversation? A crack in the wall we used to call trust? The worst part was, I didn't ask. I didn't ask because I was afraid of the answer. Instead, I waited. I watched. It's terrifying how quickly love can become observation. I started noting every shift in his behavior. How he tucked his phone under his leg when he sat down. How he cleared his notifications before setting it on the nightstand. How he smiled at texts I never saw. I became someone I didn't recognize. Quiet. Suspicious. Hyper-aware. Every sound from his phone made my stomach tighten. Every laugh behind a closed door felt like a betrayal I couldn't prove. And through it all, I kept being a mother. Kept showing up. I bathed Lily, kissed her cheeks, sang lullabies I barely had the strength to hum. She was the only one who looked me in the eyes anymore. And some nights, when she laughed mid-feeding or squeezed my finger before bed, I remembered what it felt like to be whole, if only for a second. The following Sunday, Logan gave us his family time. For hours. We went to the park. It should have been perfect. The weather was soft and golden, the sky clear enough to make you forget anything was wrong. Logan even offered to push Lily's stroller. At first, I let myself believe we were finding our rhythm again. He was smiling. He leaned over and kissed the top of my head. And then his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, jaw tightening, and quickly turned the screen away from me. Work, he muttered. I nodded, pretending not to care. But I saw the name before he tucked it into his pocket. Jenna. We walked in silence after that. I pushed Lily on the baby swing while he sat on a bench behind me, typing furiously. His laugh rang out once. Short, muffled, and I froze mid-push. She giggled. He didn't even look up, and I wondered how many more moments he would miss before he realized they were gone. That night, I broke a boundary I never thought I'd cross. When he fell asleep, phone beside him, face half buried in the pillow, I picked it up with shaking fingers. The screen was locked, but I'd seen his passcode before. I told myself it wasn't betrayal. I told myself I had the right to know. He hadn't deleted the conversation. Jenna, you're way funnier when you're not being a zombie at work. Face with tears, avoid Logan. LOL, you bring it out of me, I guess. Jenna, is your roommate asleep yet? Eyes Logan. She usually is by now. Jenna, smirking face. Logan, don't start. Jenna, you love it. Logan, maybe I stared at the screen until my eyes blurred. Roommate. I wasn't his wife anymore. In his eyes, I was background. A babysitter. An obligation. I wanted to scream. I wanted to wake him up and throw the phone at him. But I didn't. I set it down gently and walked to the living room. I sat on the floor and cried so quietly the baby monitor didn't pick it up. I didn't want to wake Lily. She deserved peace. Even if I didn't. The next day, I went to his office. I hadn't planned it. I just packed up Lily, dressed her in something cute, and drove without thinking. I told him I missed him. That I thought it would be fun. He seemed startled. His smile didn't quite reach his eyes. I watched him. I watched the way his eyes flicked across the room whenever his phone lit up. I watched the way he laughed a little too loudly when one particular coworker passed by. She was tall, slim, with perfect eyeliner and a laugh like wind chimes. Jenna. She glanced at me, smiled, and then turned to Logan and said, "Didn't know you were bringing your family today." That word again. Family. She said it like a foreign language. Like something she'd never heard him use. I pretended not to notice. Pretended I didn't see the way her hand brushed his arm when she passed. Pretended I didn't want to run out of there with Lily in my arms and never come back. That night, I wrote him a letter. Not a breakup letter. Not an accusation. Just the truth. I told him I missed him. I told him I was drowning. I told him I felt invisible. That I couldn't do this alone anymore. That I didn't want to feel like a stranger in my own home, raising our daughter beside someone who only showed up in snapshots. I placed it on his desk. He didn't mention it the next day. Or the day after. But the day after that, something strange happened. I woke up and his game room was dark. And used. His computer was off. No clicks, no clatters, no mic chatter. I checked the kitchen. He wasn't there. Then I heard a voice in Lily's room. Soft. Male. Logan was sitting in the rocking chair, bottle in hand, humming off-key to her as she stared up at him, wide-eyed. When he noticed me, he froze. "I couldn't sleep," he muttered. Figured she was due for a bottle. My heart stopped. He hadn't fed her. Ever. "Okay," I whispered. He looked like he wanted to say something more. But he didn't. And I didn't ask. Because something told me whatever he was trying to say wasn't ready yet. Or maybe he wasn't the one who was going to say it. For the first time in months, I saw Logan awake before me. He didn't say much. Just brewed coffee. Kissed Lily on the forehead. Asked me if I wanted pancakes like we used to make before the baby was born, back when life still felt sweet and safe. I should have felt touched. Grateful. Maybe even relieved. Instead, I felt suspicious. When someone shows up after months of emotional absence, it's not always love. Sometimes it's guilt dressed as effort. But I played along. Smiled. Took the pancakes. Told myself not to overthink it. Maybe the letter had reached him in a place words hadn't before. Maybe he was trying. Maybe. That afternoon, I opened Facebook for the first time in weeks. I barely posted anymore. Nothing felt shareable when my life was unraveling behind a picture-perfect caption. But as I scrolled, a name caught my eye. Jenna Elise tagged Logan Daniels in a memory. My finger hovered above the post before tapping. It was a photo from 2 years ago. Logan and a group of coworkers at some team-building retreat, smiling around a bonfire. Jenna was seated beside him, closer than most people would sit. His arm rested behind her shoulders. Casual, maybe? Or familiar. The caption read, "Still the best trip with the best team, Orange Heart. Can't believe this was 2 years ago already. Miss this squad." Dozens of likes. Coworkers commenting, laughing about inside jokes. And then I saw it. Buried in the comments, Jenna had replied to someone asking if the duo was still attached at the hip. Not exactly, but we still know each other way too well, smirking face. I stared at the emoji. That stupid smirking emoji that had started to haunt my dreams. That night, after Lily was asleep and Logan retreated to the living room with his phone, I called my sister, Nina. I hadn't told anyone what was going on, but I needed an anchor. Someone who knew me before I became a ghost in my own marriage. Nina didn't hesitate to answer. "Hey, are you okay?" "No," I said, and my voice cracked like a dam giving way. "I think he's lying to me. I think there's something going on with this girl at his work." "Who?" "Jenna." I froze. I hadn't said her name yet. You know her?" "I mean, kind of," she said, cautious. "She used to go to my gym. She's friends with some of the girls I work with. They said she used to date a married guy at her old job, really dramatic breakup. Like, police-involved kind of drama." "Police? What do you mean?" "Just rumors," Nina said, lowering her voice. "I don't know the details. But the guy's wife apparently found something on her laptop. She confronted them, things got heated. Next thing you know, Jenna got transferred and the guy left the company. It was messy. Something twisted in my gut. Transferred. To Logan's company? How long had she known him? How long had this been simmering? The next day, I tried to act normal. But the truth sat heavy in my chest like a stone I couldn't swallow. Logan was trying, at least on the surface. He fed Lily without being asked. He even suggested we go for a walk together. But his phone was never far from him. His screen always tilted just slightly away from me. I decided I couldn't live like this anymore, tiptoeing around secrets, hiding from the truth. So I did something bold. I borrowed Lily's iPad, set up a fake email, made a new Instagram account, and followed Jenna. Her page was public. Thousands of photos. Polished. Filtered. Smiling selfies. Work events. Nights out. Nothing directly incriminating. Until I saw her story highlight called My Muse Black Heart. I tapped. Videos. Short clips. A voice that sounded almost too familiar. One of them was a blurred clip of someone sketching a character on a notepad. The voice laughed behind the camera. The laugh? Logan's. There was no face. But I knew that sound. I had memorized it for 5 years. The date stamp on the clip? 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, he told me he was working late. I gripped the iPad so hard it creaked. And then another slide, a meme that read, "If only they knew how late you kept me up last night," smirking face. No context. No names. But the implication was clear. I waited until he was in the shower. I pulled his laptop from the living room. I didn't know what I expected to find. But I was done hoping the truth would appear on its own. There were no saved emails. No open messages. But in the downloads folder, a zip file named conceptdesign_JE. My heart pounded as I clicked. Sketches. Dozens of character drawings. Some labeled. Some with notes like, "Add jewelry detail," or "Per her tattoo." Per her tattoo. I remembered it then, Jenna's tattoo. A line of music notes down her collarbone. I'd seen it the day we visited his office. She'd worn a low-cut blouse and caught me staring. The most disturbing part? One of the drawings looked like me. Only not. Same eyes. Same nose. But thinner. Darker hair. Different smile. And the file name? Elise_altver.png Elise. Jenna Elise. Altver. Alternate version. Was she trying to become me? Or was he turning me into her? The woman in the drawing stared back at me from the laptop screen. She had my face, but she wasn't me. Her eyes were sharper. Her waist slimmer. Her smile, unfamiliar. As if someone had sculpted a fantasy out of the real me and polished it until she gleamed just right under the light. Elise_altver.png. Alternate version. A part of me didn't want to know what it meant. But a deeper part, the one growing colder and more sure by the day, already did. Jenna wasn't just another woman. She wasn't just a harmless flirt. She was becoming something inside Logan's head. A character. A presence. A new muse. And somehow, I was the shadow being edited out. The air between Logan and me had thickened. He noticed. I knew he did. He became oddly sweet in his movements, washing a bottle without being asked, asking if I needed help folding laundry. He even brought home my favorite dessert one night and placed it on the table like a peace offering wrapped in frosting. But none of it reached my heart. You can't patch emotional betrayal with cupcakes. You can't repaint intimacy after you've redrawn someone else over it. I waited until Sunday. We were supposed to have our family time, those sacred 4 hours. But I didn't want to go for a walk. I didn't want to pretend. I wanted the truth. He was holding Lily when I asked him, "Who's Elise?" I said softly, my tone careful but firm. His hands froze over the baby's onesie snap. "What?" "On your laptop," I continued. "Sketches. Labeled Elise_Alpher. And the file linked to Jenna's initials." He set Lily gently into her crib before turning to face me. His face was blank. "You went through my files?" he asked. That response. Not denial. Not explanation. Just deflection. "You didn't answer the question." He exhaled. Scratched the back of his neck. "It's just concept art. Something Jenna and I have been working on for a project. She's designing a graphic novel pitch. Asked for help." "You're drawing her?" I asked, barely keeping my voice steady. "No," he said too quickly. "Not her. A character. A character that looks like me." He flinched. Just for a second. "Come on, Elena. Don't twist this. It's just art." "No, Logan. This is a twist. This is you spending hours designing someone who looks like me but isn't, named after her, talking to her late at night, letting her call me your roommate, and laughing about it." He looked like he might say something. Then he didn't. Instead, he walked to the living room, sat down, and buried his face in his hands. I didn't follow him. Not right away. Instead, I stared at the baby monitor. Watched Lily's tiny chest rising and falling in soft, even breaths. This wasn't just about cheating anymore. This was something deeper. I needed to understand what I was dealing with. I needed more than vague feelings and stolen screenshots. So I went back to Nina. "I need you to find out what you can about Jenna. Anything. I don't care how petty it sounds." She didn't question me. She just nodded and said, "Give me a few days." 2 days later, she called. "Elena," she said, breathless. "You're not crazy." I looked into her. I stayed silent, phone pressed tight to my ear. "She's done this before." My heart sank. "Done what?" "Found taken men. Got too close." She inserts herself into their personal lives, gets involved in their creative stuff. Especially guys who write or draw. One of the girls at my gym said Jenna dated her cousin, a tattoo artist. Same story. He stopped drawing his wife. Started designing tattoos that looked like Jenna. Then he left his wife, and Jenna dropped him a few weeks later. It's like she gets off on becoming the better version of whoever the guy already has. Better version. That phrase stuck to my ribs like poison. "She's not just flirting," Nina added. "She's rewriting you." That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed beside Logan, his breathing steady and shallow. The room smelled like fabric softener and baby powder. But all I could smell was betrayal. And underneath that, shame. Because I saw it now. The trap. Not just Logan's. Mine. I'd let myself shrink. I'd let myself stop being bold, funny, artistic. I used to write poetry. I used to paint. I used to dance around the apartment in oversized t-shirts blasting Fleetwood Mac at full volume. Now, I moved through rooms like a ghost, scared to disturb the peace that had already shattered. Maybe Jenna hadn't taken my place. Maybe I'd vacated it myself. The next morning, I left Lily with my mother for the first time since she was born. I didn't tell Logan. I didn't tell him where I was going. I parked outside his office at 3:45 p.m. Waited until I saw Jenna coming out for a break, iced coffee in one hand, sunglasses on. She looked like a magazine ad. confident, collected, and completely unaware that I was about to confront her. I stepped onto the sidewalk like someone walking into battle. Jenna. She turned, confused. When she saw my face, the confusion turned to amusement. Oh, she said. Hey, Elena, right? You know who I am. She smiled, slow and smooth. Of course. Logan talks about you. That single sentence was loaded with implications she didn't even have to say. I nodded toward her phone. Tell me, are you in love with my husband or just obsessed with trying to be me? Her smile cracked, just a bit. Excuse me, you heard me. You play this part in every man's life, don't you? You become their dream girl. You make them draw you, write you, rewrite their wives into new versions of you. What is it you want, Jenna? Their attention? Or their destruction? For a long second, she said nothing. Then she took a sip of her iced coffee. I don't make anyone do anything, she said. If Logan's drawing me, talking to me, spending time with me, that's his choice. Maybe ask why he's so quick to replace you in his stories. I stepped closer. No. Maybe ask yourself why you need to erase women like me to feel powerful. Her smile disappeared completely now. We stood there, two women shaped by different wounds, locked in a war that had nothing to do with coffee or cartoons. I didn't wait for her reply. I walked away. Not because I'd won, but because I finally remembered who the hell I was. By the time I got back to the house, it was sunset. Everything was bathed in amber light, too beautiful, too peaceful, like the world was mocking me. Like it didn't care that I had just stared into the eyes of the woman who was trying to take my place and found nothing but hollow victory. Because the truth was, I didn't feel better. I felt exposed. Raw. Jenna hadn't denied anything. She didn't need to. Her power wasn't in lies. It was in the twisted confidence of a woman who knew she didn't have to try very hard to be chosen. Logan had handed her the match. She'd just set fire to the edges of us. When Logan came home that night, I didn't wait for Lily to fall asleep. I didn't wait for dinner or for a quiet moment or for some safe excuse to pretend everything was fine. I stood in the doorway, blocking his path to the game room. We need to talk, I said. He looked at me for a second, something flickering in his eyes, panic maybe, or resignation. Okay, he said. He followed me to the living room. I didn't sit. He didn't either. We stood across from each other like two people negotiating a ceasefire in a war neither of us had declared, but both had been bleeding in for months. I saw Jenna today, I said. He blinked. Slowly. What? I went to your office. I spoke to her. I asked her what she wanted. She didn't deny a thing, Logan. He rubbed his face, sighed like the weight of the sky was pressing on his spine. I told you, he said, it's just art. Just a project. No, I snapped. It's not. This isn't about a comic book. This is about you turning me into her. Or her into me. About you creating this fantasy where you don't have to deal with who I really am now, tired, postpartum, scared, messy, and instead you draw this version of me that doesn't cry in the kitchen while holding a bottle. His jaw tightened. I never asked you to cry in the kitchen, he muttered. I laughed. Cold. Sharp. No, you just made sure you were never there to see it. A beat of silence. Then he said something I didn't expect. I didn't want this life. Everything stopped. What? I whispered. He finally sat down, head in his hands. I didn't want to be a father this soon. I didn't want the pressure, the responsibility, the constant need to be on for someone else. I love you, Elena. But after Lily was born, everything changed. And I wasn't ready. I thought I would grow into it. I thought I'd catch up. He looked up, eyes red now. But I didn't. I froze. I stood there, heart pounding. That's your excuse for disappearing? I asked. For choosing her? No, he said. That's my reason for retreating. Jenna, she was an escape. A version of reality where I was still me. Still funny. Still creative. Still free. I shook my head. You were free. You just didn't see it. I never asked you to give anything up. I asked you to show up. His voice cracked. I didn't know how. And now? I asked. What now? He looked at me. Really looked at me. I don't know, he said. I think about leaving sometimes. The words knocked the air out of me. Not because they were unexpected, but because they were finally said out loud. "I think about staying," I whispered back, even when I shouldn't. We sat in silence. Not peace, just the absence of noise. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I sat beside Lily's crib long after Logan went to bed, watching her sleep. Watching the way her tiny fists curled, her lips pouted. She looked like him when she dreamed. That made it harder. That made it real. The next morning, Logan was gone before I woke up. But he left a note on the fridge. "Taking a few days. At my brother's. Don't want to make it worse by staying here if I can't fix what's broken in me. I'm sorry I let you carry everything. I don't know if I deserve you anymore. I don't even know if I deserve her. I just know I need to figure out who I am again. Logan." There was no "I love you" at the end. I stared at the note until my hands shook. Then I folded it in half and put it in the drawer next to the baby spoons. 3 days passed. In those 3 days, I felt more like myself than I had in months. I cried. Sure, but I also wrote. For the first time since before I was pregnant, I opened my laptop and let the words pour out. Poems. Letters I didn't plan to send. Messy journal entries full of rage and grief and weird hope. I called Nina. I held Lily like a shield and a lighthouse. I cleaned out Logan's game room. Not in anger, just in clarity. His system was still there, but I packed away everything else, the cords, the posters, the glowing lights. I turned it into something new. A studio. Mine. I bought a canvas from the craft store. Dug out my paints. I started with something small, a silhouette of a woman holding a baby while a shadow stood behind her, faceless and fading. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. On the 4th day, Logan came back. He stood in the doorway, unsure, holding nothing but a small overnight bag. I looked at him. Older. Tired. But different somehow. "I'm not here to stay," he said. "Not yet." "Okay," I said. "I just wanted to see her," he added, voice breaking. I stepped aside. He walked into the nursery. Lily was asleep, cheeks rosy, one foot kicked out from under her blanket. He knelt beside the crib and whispered her name. And then he looked at me. "There's more to the Jenna story," he said. "But I'll only tell you if you still care." I looked at him, and I didn't answer right away. Because for the first time since all of this began, I wasn't sure if I did. I told him to sit down. Not out of comfort, but because I didn't want him pacing the room like he was avoiding landmines. If he was going to speak, he needed to face the war he'd started. I sat on the armrest across from him, arms crossed, a cold mug of tea untouched on the table beside me. "Start," I said. He looked tired. There was stubble on his jaw, and his clothes were rumpled like he hadn't changed in days. But his eyes, they were clearer than they'd been in months. And that made me nervous. Because clear eyes often mean someone's about to rip away the last illusion you've been clinging to. "I met Jenna before you got pregnant," he said quietly. "Not at work." Before that, my stomach dropped. He looked up at me, like he was afraid I'd leave the room. "I met her at a local comic art night," he continued. "You were visiting your mom that weekend, remember?" I didn't mention it because it was just a thing I thought I'd do for fun. She was there. Alone. She liked my sketches. We talked. Nothing happened, I swear to God. But she messaged me afterward. Said she liked the way I drew emotions on people's faces. Said I had something rare. I remembered that weekend. The one where he'd texted less than usual. I'd chalked it up to work. She knew I was married. She even asked to see a picture of you. I didn't think anything of it. Just showed her your Instagram. He paused. That's when it started. I blinked. What started? She began drawing too. Sketching characters that looked like you. Only elevated versions. She'd send me screenshots, taglines, ideas. It was flattering at first. Weird, but flattering. She said she was inspired by the dynamic between us, me, the artist, you, the muse. I felt sick. She was obsessed, I said quietly. He nodded. Yeah, and I let it happen. Because it was easier than telling her to stop. I thought if I ignored it, it would die off. But she found a way into my workplace a month later. Transferred departments. Told HR she wanted a new environment. I didn't connect the dots. Until it was too late. Did you sleep with her? No, he said firmly. I didn't. But I thought about it. And that's almost worse, isn't it? Yes. And no. Because part of me had already felt it, long before he ever said it out loud. I never gave her what she wanted, he went on. But she still clung to me. Used work projects to get close. Used compliments like rope. I felt important again. Like someone saw me beyond just being a tired husband and new dad. She let me live in that delusion. I said nothing. She told me she didn't want to steal me. She just wanted to reflect me. Make me feel understood. That she was just holding up a mirror. I stared hard at him. She wasn't holding up a mirror, I said. She was making one. A distorted version. Of both of us. He looked down. I know. And what now? I asked. I told HR, he said. Filed an official boundary complaint. Told them everything. My eyes widened. You reported her? Yes. I said I didn't feel safe. That I made mistakes by letting things go too far without addressing them. But that she manipulated the emotional lines between us. She's on leave now. I didn't know whether to feel relieved or afraid. Because women like Jenna? They didn't disappear quietly. 2 days later, I got a package. No return address. Just my name written in shaky cursive. Inside? A sketchbook. Every page was filled with pencil drawings. Some unfinished. Some disturbingly detailed. All of them were of me. Nude. Sleeping. Crying. Holding Lily. Laughing. And one was of me lying on a bed. Eyes closed. Hands folded across my chest. Like a corpse. There was a note at the back. A single sentence written in red ink. You were never his muse. I just drew the truth. J. I dropped the book. Shaking. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I locked the doors. And then I called Nina. I told her everything. I sent photos. I documented the packaging. And finally, I called Logan. He didn't say a word when I told him. But he was at the house within 10 minutes, faster than he'd ever come home before. That night, we slept in shifts. One of us always awake. One of us always watching Lily. Because something told us. This wasn't over. The police didn't take the sketchbook as seriously as I thought they would. There's no direct threat, the officer said, flipping through the pages like they weren't the rawest invasion of my life I'd ever seen. Disturbing, yes. But it's not illegal to draw someone, even in compromising detail. Unless she's trespassed or issued a threat, we can't act yet. So we waited. We documented. We lived with the dread like a second shadow in the house. I stopped sleeping through the night. Logan stayed, mostly on the couch, always within earshot of Lily's crib. He didn't ask for forgiveness. He just protected. Quietly. Consistently. Maybe guilt had made him loyal. Maybe fear. Maybe something softer had returned inside him too, something he hadn't yet named. But I didn't forgive him. Not yet. 3 weeks passed. Jenna's leave turned into an extended absence. Her social media disappeared. I thought maybe, just maybe, it was over. Until I came home one evening from a walk with Lily to find a single page slipped under the front door. No envelope. No message. Just a drawing of a crib. Empty. And beneath it, scrawled in messy black ink. Still think I didn't see you first? This time, the police acted. They issued a temporary protection order. We installed cameras. Changed the locks. I pressed charges for harassment. It never went to trial. Because Jenna disappeared. Quit her job. Moved out of her apartment. Ghosted her friends. Her car was found a few cities over. Nothing else. A ghost, haunting a life she tried to rewrite into fiction. But ghosts leave fingerprints, even when they vanish. For months after, I caught myself glancing over my shoulder in parking lots. Checking the baby monitor twice. Watching the mail for something laced in madness. But slowly it faded. Like fog burning off in the morning sun. Logan and I tried therapy. Twice. The first time, He lied to the counselor. The second time, he didn't. He admitted everything. The loneliness. The escape. The attraction to someone who didn't need him just reflected him back like a mirror made of glass and ego. But what mattered more? I spoke, too, about how invisible I'd become. How motherhood devoured my identity, and he let it happen without reaching for me. How I let it happen, too. How I lost myself trying to hold the entire house, the child, the grief of unmet expectations, and still make dinner at 7. In the end, we didn't stay married. We separated peacefully. No custody battle. No bitterness. Just a handshake and a long, tearful goodbye in the driveway. Logan moved into an apartment 5 minutes away. He sees Lily 3 times a week. He's gentle now. Humble. Sometimes he brings over a sketch pad and lets Lily scribble on the pages. She laughs when she draws. Unapologetic and wild. Like she's rewriting the story already. And me? I rebuilt. I turned the game room into a full studio. I sell paintings online now. I started a small blog. The version I choose, where I write about healing, motherhood, and rebuilding identity after betrayal. It grew bigger than I ever expected. So did I. I still think about Jenna sometimes. Where she went. What became of her? What darkness she carried that made her crave being someone else's mirror. But I no longer see her in mine. I see me. Flawed. Fierce. Free. Epilogue. 1 year later, I stood in front of a gallery wall at a women's art exhibit. One of my paintings had been accepted. The muse remembers herself. It was a faceless woman with one hand reaching into her chest, pulling out a blooming flower where her heart used to be. A little girl ran up beside me, giggling, tugging at my coat. "Mommy, that's yours." I smiled, scooped her into my arms. "Yes, baby. That one's mine." And finally, I believed it.